Listen, he just walked up out of the rain. I swear to God, that's all there was to it.
Did my father say anything to you the night he died?
I don't know. Your father came into the hospital. I thought he was crazy, out of his mind. He's hanging onto a Halloween mask. He wouldn't let it go. And what he said was,
"They're going to kill us. All of us."
And in a little while, he was dead. And I don't know what the hell is going on.
I've been doing some detective work. I think my father ran into trouble somewhere between here and Santa Mira.
Santa Mira, founded 1887. Colonel Cochran converted it into a toy factory.
You happen to know anything about this Cochran?
He's watching you, friend, I guarantee you that.
Where are they taking her?
They're taking her to the factory.
I've got nothing here to indicate there was ever a body at all.
Operator, this is an emergency. They're gonna kill us all.
Why, Cochran? Do I need a reason? I do love a good joke, and this is the best ever. A joke on the children. But there's a better reason. You don't really know much about Halloween. Halloween. Between the real and the unreal. The dead might be looking in.
You've got to believe me!
The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red. Witchcraft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment.
Stop! Stop it!
The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. I'm glad you'll be able to watch it. And happy Halloween.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the night no one comes home.
Hello everyone, I am Sean and welcome once again to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate you being here and watching the video. And a special thank you again to those of you who have subscribed to the channel. I know I say it every time. I hate repeating myself, but thank you. It really does mean a lot to me to have people out there subscribing to the channel and following me along and tuning in each episode. Your support means so much to me, so thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. So thank you. Today we are going to be continuing along with our Halloween franchise review. So far we've talked about the original from 1978. We talked about Halloween 2 from 1981. And now today we are going to talk about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch from 1982. Before we get into it, though, I do want to show a couple of collectibles. You know, each week or each episode, I like to show a couple of things that I've picked up. Both of these I've had for a little while, but since we're talking Michael Myers and we're talking Halloween, I'm just showing, some of that stuff. So this first thing I want to show, I think I just picked it up last Halloween, probably in a Spirit Halloween store or something like that, but just some shot glasses from Halloween 2. I think those are really cool. Part of me wants to open them and use them, and part of me wants to just keep them here in the box, and I struggle with stuff like that. I never can decide exactly what I want to do, but for now they're still in the box. And then the other thing that I wanted to show, I am such a huge fan of the Toony Terrors figure line from NECA. I don't know why, but maybe it's because I'm still partially a kid. I don't know, but I think these are so cool. And the Michael Myers one is one of my favorite. I really like this Michael Myers Toony Terrors figure. I think it's so cool. A big fan of that Toony Terrors line in general. I've got several characters from it, but the Michael one is one of my favorites. So that's the collectibles I want to show for now. Okay, now let's talk about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So this film, came out in 1982, as I mentioned. I was like 10 years old when the film came out. I didn't see it in theaters, but I did see it shortly after, probably renting a VHS or something like that. And I had just really started to get into horror around this time of my life. I had seen My Bloody Valentine. I had seen a couple of the Friday the 13th movies. I had seen the first 2 Halloween movies. And I was really starting to like I said, enjoy horror, especially the slasher subgenre. I was just becoming a big fan. And so when I had heard that there was going to be another Halloween movie, I'm thinking more Michael. I'm thinking this is going to be great. I can't wait. I'm so excited because I really liked the first two. Still love the first two. You know my opinion on those if you watched the previous two episodes. So yeah, I was really excited about Halloween 3. Again, didn't see it in theaters. So once the time came out, where it was available to rent, I remember renting this and being confused because I think by this time I don't remember exactly, but I had probably heard Michael wasn't in it, and I was thinking, "There's no way, like that can't be real." I want to watch this movie, see what's going on, and so renting this and probably watching it with my dad, when I was a kid, and being incredibly disappointed and not liking this movie at all, thinking it was stupid. I wanted Michael. Like I just was not a fan the first time I saw this film as a kid, and I didn't watch it again for years. Few years ago, probably. I think I saw bits and parts here and there, but a few years ago, I finally saw the entire film again, and now knowing what it was, all these years later, I was like, okay, it's not bad. It's still not Michael. I would prefer Michael. This doesn't belong as in the Halloween franchise, but it's okay. And I feel like the film, I feel like a lot of people were very disappointed in this movie in the beginning. We'll talk about its performance here in a few moments, but just it didn't click with people. But I do feel like in the last few years, several years even, I don't know, that it really has developed a cult following, and there are a lot of people that really do like this movie, and some people that wish the Halloween franchise would have gone this route, this anthology route that we'll talk about here in a minute that they were talking. In fact, I just had a person on one of my social media pages, I can't remember which one it was, but mentioned the other day that they still believe that the Halloween franchise should not be about Michael Myers, that it should be an anthology, different characters, different stuff all the time. And this was one of their favorites because of that. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I don't, people like something, they like it. That's perfectly fine with me. That just doesn't, that's not my thought, because to me, the Halloween franchise is Michael Myers. And we'll get into my thoughts on this movie and where I stand on it now today. But it's going to be interesting to rank this one at the end. And then especially once I get through all the Halloween films, I'm going to come back and rank all of the films from my favorite to least favorite. I'm already trying to decide where to put this in some ways because I've seen every movie in the Halloween franchise, and a lot of this is going back and doing rewatches, and I just don't feel like this movie belongs, but it's got Halloween in the title and it's part of the franchise, so we're going to talk about it anyway. And then I'll figure the rest part out later. So let me put my glasses on so I can read my notes, and we'll start talking about Halloween 3. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Let me give you the brief synopsis of the film. Again, most people watching my channel probably already know what this film's about. I'm sure they've seen it, but this is what I always do, so I'm going to go ahead and start off with the synopsis of the film. ER Dr. Dan Chalice and Ellie Grimbridge uncover a terrible plot by a small-town mask maker, Connell Cochran, a madman who is planning a Halloween mass murder utilizing an ancient Celtic ritual. The ritual involves a boulder stolen from Stonehenge, the use of silver shamrock masks, and a triggering device contained in a television commercial, all designed to kill millions of children. Very strange synopsis. Kind of a strange film, but we're going to get into all of that. Released October 22nd, 1982, directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, written by Tommy Lee Wallace and Nigel Neal, produced by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. Cinematography, Dean Cundy, who had done the cinematography for the first two Halloween films, returns. Edited by Millie Moore, music by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth. Production companies, Tino De Laurentiis Corporation and Deborah Hill Productions, distributed by Universal Pictures, a runtime of 99 minutes, budget of $4.6 million, box office of $14.4 million, so didn't do great at the box office. Rotten Tomatoes scores 51% from critics, up from their thoughts on Halloween 2, but audience scores were down 30% from the audience. Cast, we have Tom Atkins as Dr. Chalice, Stacey Nelkin as Ellie Grimbridge, Dan O'Harely as Mr. Cochran, Michael Curry as Rafferty, Ralph Straight as Buddy Kupfer, Jadine Barber as Betty Kupfer, Brad Schachter as Little Buddy, Garn Stevens as Marge Gutman, Nancy Keys returning to the Halloween franchise as Linda Chalice, Jonathan Terry as Starker, and then Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, is the lead android assassin in this film. And Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, has an uncredited performance in this film, as you just hear her voice as the phone operator and the curfew announcer. A couple of things about the film, and then we'll get into it. Of course, this departs from, the the slasher genre into more of like a witchcraft theme. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill only agreed to be involved in this film if it was not a sequel to Halloween 2 and if it was not about Michael Myers. They wanted this anthology series of films that centered around Halloween night. Each film would contain its own characters, its own setting, its own storyline, and just do a different movie every year about scary shit that happened on Halloween night. And that's what they wanted to go for with this. They just didn't want to do more Michael Myers, basically. All of that being said, it was the poorest performing of the first three movies that had come out, poorest performing film of the franchise at that time, and most critics gave negative reviews for the movie. But like I said, it's kind of built up a cult following as more of a standalone film. That's really only notes that I have on this particular film. So let's get into it a little bit more and kind of talk about my thoughts on this movie as we go through it. Again, I won't go through plot extensively, but we'll just kind of cover some things here and there. Opening to the film is fine. I feel like we get this opening of the film where we have this gentleman who he's carrying one of the masks, I believe, and he's running, and there's a car chasing him, and trying to get away, obviously, from some people. They end up catching him at one point, but he gets away. He ends up in a hospital, and there we get our character introduction to Dr. Chalice, played by Tom Atkins. And so I'll start there. We also, while this gentleman is in the hospital, then we have a stranger who comes into the hospital and kills him. And then as he's trying to get away and they're chasing him, he ends up killing himself. Tom Atkins is great. I know Tom Atkins is a beloved figure in the horror community. I like Tom Atkins. His performance is good in this film. Again, opening is fine. We get our introduction to him, and we also get our introduction to the character of Ellie, who this turns out to be her father, who is the one that was running and then got killed by this strange, weird assassin people. And, again, good performance from her. I think the performances are pretty good all across the board for this movie. Everybody does a good job. There wasn't really anyone that I thought their acting was bad. I don't feel like there are a lot of likable characters in this film, other than probably just our primary two, Ellie and Dr. Chalice. But, that's okay as well. I was a little confused. I had forgotten, I guess, in watching this film, these two form a relationship very quickly. That surprised me. I guess I had forgot how quickly they bonded, but from what I understand, women love Tom Atkins, so maybe that's understandable. Who knows? But fine introduction, good introduction to some characters. The one thing that I did kind of notice, though, in rewatching this a couple of days ago was that I don't feel like, some of these older 80 movies, I'm all okay with cheesy effects. I love 80 slashers, so obviously the cheesy effects or just the way things look from what happened in the 80s typically don't bother me. I don't feel like the special effects in this film hold up great. Here it's not horrible, but there are some parts later in the film where I just don't think it looks good at all. So yeah, I do kind of struggle with the effects a little bit in this film, and really a lot of that tends to, as we get into this next part where now Dr. Chalice and Ellie are wanting to investigate what happened. Why was her dad killed? What's going on? And they end up taking this trip to this town, and they're staying at this hotel. Ellie meets this character named Marge, I believe is her name. who is frustrated with this mask making company that's doing these things, and then she ends up having you get her death. The death is okay again, but I really felt like the effects here were not good. I don't feel like they hold up good for this particular scene at all. We also get our introduction to Mr. Cochran, um, typical evil scientist type character for the most part. Again, performance is fine. I mean, it's okay. Um, yeah, I really felt like so. I think I was struggling with the plot of the film in general, because again, I liked Tom Atkins. I liked. Let me go back and look at her name one more time, real quick. The character of Ellie, played by, I believe, Stacy. Yeah, Stacy Nelkin. I liked her. And initially, I was thinking, okay, this is all right. I remember this movie's decent, but the plot is just such a reach to me. And while I don't always have to have, again, being a slasher fan, plot is not huge. I mean, basically, a slasher film is somebody's killing people, right? So, it. I don't always look for these great in-depth plot type things, but this is not a slasher film, and so when it's not a slasher, I do want something a little bit more, and I just felt like this plot was such a reach. Why is this happening? What are we doing? Um, we've gotten these introductions to these characters. We've had a couple of kills. Everything is okay. Um, but nothing is really jumping out, making me love this film as I'm watching it. Again, the performances are good, but the special effects not so much. And then when we get to there's a scene where they tore the factory that's making these masks. And as I'm watching these, as I'm watching this, the masks look cool. I mean, I do like the look of the masks, but we get introduced to the Kupfer family. Cochran really is annoying. We're just kind of going through this, and I was just looking for something to make me. I wanted to really like this film because I do know that it has this cult following, but I was just kind of felt like I was going through the motions with this film. Finally, Ellie gets kidnapped. We find out that these henchmen that Cochran has is all androids. That bothered me a little bit. I'm like, really? We need androids for this. Dr. Chalice also gets captured. And I just felt like the film was dragging at this point. I was just like, okay, come on, let's do something here. Like, I just really felt like the film was blah, I guess. In fact, by this point, my favorite scene in the film. Well, let me backtrack here for a minute because we do also get Cochran explaining how they've stolen this big, huge Stonehenge rock to help with this procedure that they're going to do. He reveals his big plan of, they're going to kill these children because Halloween night is not what everybody thinks it is. It shouldn't be a night of treating. It should be a night of sacrifice. Trick-or-treating, it should be sacrifice, that kind of thing. It's such a strange plan. It's such an odd plot, in my opinion. I did like the Kupfer family kill where, little buddy's got the mask on and he ends up, the mask kills him. And then I guess both of his parents, well, the mom has a heart attack. I believe the dad gets bit by a snake. But even at that, I just don't get it, because after the mask kills little buddy, we see bugs and spiders and snakes and all of this like coming out of the mask where his head was, and it's just so awkward to me. And I really feel like, even doing this episode and trying to talk about this film, I'm struggling to really find a way to explain it and struggling to really find a good flowing ground to talk about this movie. But that's how I felt watching the movie. I felt like it was dragging. I caught myself just kind of wanting it to be over and wondering what I was going to say about it when I did a review. My favorite scene in the entire movie is where they've got Dr. Chalice locked up in this room and they put a mask on him, but there's a TV playing. And the purpose in the TV playing is for the commercial to come on, right? But before that happens, the movie Halloween is on this TV, and I catch myself looking at that part, and I'm like, oh yeah, Halloween. There we go. Finally, I see Michael. I see Laurie, and remembering how much I love that movie, and just not really caring about what's going on in this movie, So, um, and then when Daniel or Dr. Chalice does escape and he gets into the control room and he finds these microchips and he dumps them out and kills a bunch of people and sets this off. How they don't see him walking around in there, I have no idea. I mean, he's literally trying to sneak around between all of these androids and Cochran and these other people that are in there, like walking right beside people, standing in front of people, and they don't see him. It just, none of it was working for me at all, to be completely honest with you. He and Ellie then take off, and we find out that Ellie's now an android, and so he has this battle with her. And then after killing her, he gets to like a convenience store and he calls the networks, and once this commercial stopped, he manages to get 2 of the commercials stopped, but not a third one. And then as the film goes off, you get the impression that the planet's gone through because of this third commercial, and millions of children have been killed. And even that, by this point, and I'm probably just nitpicking here, but even that at this point was such a reach for me, because I'm like, you have this doctor that no one knows who he is. It's not like he's this world famous doctor. You have this doctor, and because he calls these networks and tells them that there's a master plan involved and people are going to be killed, they start stopping these commercials. Networks aren't going to turn off their commercials just because a doctor calls and gives you some crazy story. Like, it's just not going to happen. They're going to think this is a crazy guy. So there was just so much of this movie that was just a reach for me, that at the end of the day, I just don't find myself enjoying this film. Again, I know there's a lot of people out there that do. It's, it has its following, and I do really like Tom Atkins, but I just don't like this movie. I just don't think it's good. Initially, after I got through it the other day, because like I said, I kept feeling like the film was dragging. I just didn't think it was great overall. Once I got through it, I was like, okay, my rating scale is a 1 to 5, and I kind of do them similar to like grades you would have gotten in elementary school, A, B, C, D, F. And I was kind of thinking a D. It's not terrible, but it's not good either. I'll probably go a 2. But after watching it again, and getting through it, the movie just doesn't work for me. I don't like the plot. I think it drags. I think it's a huge reach, and there's just so much of it that just doesn't make sense to me. And so for me, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a 1 out of 5. This is not a good movie at all. This is a terrible movie, actually, in my opinion, and I may lose some people for saying that, because again, I know this movie has developed a following, but yeah, I'm just not a fan of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Just not my thing at all. Yeah, so that's my thought. Next episode, we are going to get back to Michael Myers, as we're going to talk about Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. Thank God, if you're a Michael fan like I am. But I want to know your thoughts. If you completely disagree with me, if you love this movie, that's okay. Let me know. Everybody has a right to their opinion. Subscribe to the channel, please. Hit the like button and leave me your comments on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Do you like the film? Do you not like the film? Am I way off in my thought process where this movie is concerned? I want to know your thoughts, and let's let's talk about it. So follow me on social media. You can find me on just about every forum that's out there. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I am on X, TikTok, on Letterboxd. X and Letterboxd, it's my horror corner. And then everything else is Sean's Horror Corner. So give me a follow. I try to follow back as much as possible. Just last night, I went and watched the new film, The Woman in the Yard. I'm going to, while I'm not going to do an episode of that for my YouTube channel, I am going to put a review on Letterboxd for that here in just a few minutes, so you can see my thoughts on that if you follow me on Letterboxd. So yeah, follow me on social media, subscribe to the channel. Sorry if you love this film, it's just not for me, but I'll be back in a few days and we'll talk about Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I'll see you soon.